Hello, my sweet friends. Welcome back. I hope you are all doing well. I'm very excited for today's project because this is a revisit and remake. We have created a similar base in the past, and as I do, I like to go back, check them out, see if there's any way we can add some different variations to show how versatile they can be. Sometimes we want to make them more functional. Sometimes we want to add different weight of paper. Various different reasons why you would want to go back and see if you can change things up a little bit to give some new life to a old base. So we have that here. This is an accordion base, and each of these pages will have a flip page and also a very large insert. These are all pocket pages as we go throughout, and it was very easy to make. I'm using a paper pad from my stash, but you could easily use some collection papers, and definitely want to consider switching out this holiday theme for any other kind of holiday or theme that you have in mind. We're also going to consider this a sweet and simple kind of folio. We're not adding all the bells and whistles, but I think it's perfect just as it is, and it was a lot of fun to make. So stick with me and we'll make it together. I've got my winter collection here from the Paper Studio. This is, of course, from Hobby Lobby, and it's got a really nice combination of all over florals with some geometrics, and so those really work well for combining patterns together and keeping them from looking too busy. The trouble with this paper pad is it is pretty thin. It's one-sided paper, and so it tends to not have as much bulk as a double-sided collection would be. So we're going to work around that by adding a second layer of cardstock for a base. Want to start that base with the pockets, and so this book will have all full page size pockets, and we're going to have this created with 65-pound weight paper. This is going to measure 5.5 high by 11 wide. I'm scoring it at 5 and then also at 10. Then I'll flip it and score it again at 5. And so we're going to have a finish size of 5 by 5 once it's all folded. Now you can see where I have indicated along my score lines the portions that I want to remove. And so this will help to reduce a little bit of the bulk. And I'm just going to cut that with my scissor for now. On the one I have prepared, I did take the time to cut that with my guillotine cutter, and so I could get these lines to be very straight and even and exact. So I'm just rushing through this so that I can demonstrate, but if you are using scissors, definitely take enough time to get these cuts right on your score line. So you can see that I have taken out that first bottom portion here, and then I'll come to this side as well and just clip off that whole corner, going right through where those score lines intersect. Now you also want to come in and notch this side as well so that you can reduce some of that bulk. And I'm just going to cut right up to that score line. You may be able to see the double-sided adhesive tape I've added. So this will be the flap that holds the bottom together, and that will be the side flap. And so I'm just going to fold this first so that I can establish where those creases are going to wind up. And it would be helpful as well to come in with your scoring tool and just go ahead and burnish in that crease so that you can get it nice and flat. Okay, now you can remove the backing from your tape from one side here. And then I do want to add a layer of my Tombow. So this is the place for that 2 glue combo. And just fold that up. The reason you want all of the paper on the outside of the pocket is so that you can put things into the pocket without these interfering with that. And so you're going to get the whole width of your pocket that way, and things won't get caught on that flap. So I probably should have put that second line of Tombow here, but I was talking and, you know, distractions happen for everyone. But anyway, you do want to create 5 of these pockets. For the original we went directly to our colorful cardstock because we did have thicker paper. And so if you check out that tutorial, you will make sure to note that all of the measurements will change because we're adding that other layer. But once we have our 5 pockets made, you can create the accordion portion, and this will be what binds this all together. So I'm still working with my 65 pound weight cardstock. It's cut to be 5 inches high by 9 inches wide. In the original, I had the remaining 3 inches of what would have been the full 12 inches of width, but I'm changing that for this book. This portion will be 65 pound weight, and then we'll cut a second piece that is 110 pound, and we'll notice a difference in how sturdy and thick that is. So you will see that I have scored it at every inch going down the full width. And then I did pleat that into the accordion so that I could see where to put my tape. And so I started with the first piece, and then I skipped one, and then I did the tape, and then I skipped one, and I did that throughout until I reached the end. And so this is going to be what we adhere our pockets onto. You definitely want to work with this with having just one portion of that tape backing removed so that you don't inadvertently seal something up that you don't want to. And of course, we need those 2 glues for this. Doesn't matter which side you get, front or back, because we're going to cover most of this anyway. But I did find it helpful to push this portion in so that you can get this portion pushed right up to that corner where your score line is. And just make sure that you have it even and straight along the top and the bottom. So go ahead and add that now. Put some good pressure on that so that you get good contact, and then fold over the next portion so that the tape will be here on top. And then you want to repeat that process for all 5 of your pockets. So now we are on that last portion, and we'll still continue to add our pocket with our 2 glue combo. This time we won't have the side to fold up to get it lined up, but just take your time and be very careful where you line this up. Think if you add it to the corner and then make sure it's even on the top and the bottom, that will be the easiest way. And the most challenging part of this is keeping your hands out of the glue, which I don't usually do very successfully, but I'm gonna try just get that into place. Okay, so this would be exactly where I left the original design, and that would have left me with a portion that I would have to trim off. So the remaining 3 inches of that full width of paper, and that would be what I would use to create the spine. You can see how you got all my pockets lined up here. I want to cover this, adhere the paper around it so that it will function and the pages will flip. So I've got my piece of cardstock. Remember, we switched to 110 pound this time. It's 5 inches high by 3 inches wide. I scored it at 1 and also at 2. So we'll have an inch for our spine and then an inch to wrap around for each side. Now, I will recommend adding pattern paper to the spine now if you plan to add that, because it's much easier to get this centered on this little flat piece of paper. So I'm gonna use my cardstock cut to be 4 7/8 by 7/8. And the pattern paper is 4 3/4 by 3/4. And so I'm gonna get those nice borders. I pull this a little bit closer to me just so I can see over top of it a little better. This is always the piece that I have the most challenge with, getting that on straight. So I definitely recommend getting that on before you add it to the book. Make sure you burnish that in really well. To now, once again, pull the tape from only one side, because otherwise it's going to be a big sticky mess. And of course, you want to use your 2 glues. And just as we did for the accordion portion, I want to fold that so that I can work the corner of my book all the way down into that score. Maybe a little hard to see what I'm doing, but I'll flip that over and you can see how it lines up exactly in that corner, and that is what you want. So now you want to come back in and remove the backing from the tape on this side. Of course, that tape is helping to hold everything together while our glue sets up, so we don't have to wait for going on to the next step. This one is a little bit more challenging to get it right in the corner, but I think you can just fold your book over and allow those folds to come apart until it rests into that score line. And then you'll know that you've got it extended the full width. And then definitely come back in and press from the other side so that you are sure to have a very good contact. And so this is where the base will be finished. Then you're going to come in and add all of your layers of cardstock and your pattern paper. So when we open the book, you will notice that we're going to have different measurements for the left and the right hand page because of this accordion portion that is holding our book together. And so we're going to have a smaller page here, the larger page here, and then we're also going to add a tip-in or a flap page to this side. So let's go ahead and start that. Now I have that flip prepared and I went back to my 65 pound weight cardstock. And so the measurement for this is 4 7/8 by 4. And then I scored it at 3 so that I would have a 3-inch portion left. I want to cover both the inside and the outside of this. So my cardstock for this is going to measure 4 3/4 by 2 7/8, and the pattern paper is 4 5/8 by 2 3/4. I am choosing to alternate between the geometrics and the florals for the purpose of helping it not look too busy when I have them grouped together. That cardstock layer will also help to keep these patterns separate, but you're going to get a nice border of the base as well as the colorful cardstock. Now, of course, you could use this for any collection, any holiday, any season. Just swap out whatever collection you want to work with. And I think this is also a great place to consider bringing in that hoard of sticker sheets if you have one, as I do. It's a great way to add all those details if you want around your pictures without adding a lot of bulk. So here is that flip page. When I add it to the full-size page, the cardstock for this is 4 7/8 by 4 7/8, and the pattern paper is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. I'm just wrapping that around and adhering that to the back. That will be secured, sandwiched in between there. And you can see I've already added my adhesive to the back. So let's add this to our book. And then the portion for the left-hand side is going to be 4 7/8 by 3 7/8, and the pattern paper is 4 3/4 by 3 3/4. I just have these coordinated, and not only does it help it to look a little nicer, but it definitely helps to get through that sheet of pattern paper. And so I was able to use the sheets for these pages as well as the inserts. That really helped it to stretch those patterns a little bit further. So here you would have your first page and then your first flip. You don't want to cover this portion because that becomes part of the binding and it could become like bulky in the middle if you did that. So I'm just going to repeat that process as I work along. Because you have 5 pockets, you will have 4 sets of pages on the inside. My plan is to alternate also the flap pattern so that I can get use out of that pattern as well and not have any repeating. So let's just flip through real quick and you can see that I have all of those inside sets of pages covered. I think it's kind of fun how this pops up and becomes a little bit dimensional as you're working through. And I think you can tell obviously that we have already built in a great amount of sturdiness and thickness just by adding that extra layer of cardstock. While we have this turned to the back, let's just go ahead and finish that as well. And this will be the same size as our full pages on the inside. You can see that I have coordinated that with my spine. Now, because we're making a more sweet and simple style folio, now we're not going to go in for all the bells and whistles this time, and so we're still going to have all those nice details, but without all the dimensional elements added. I'm adding that same pattern to the front cover, and because this paper pad did not have any journal style cut aparts, I will have to find another way to get a focal image. Now you could easily go to your stash and see if you have a image from a previous collection, and if you're working with the greens and reds and the more traditional colors, you'll probably have more options to choose from. You could also get a printable. I have quite a few of them in my shop, and I think several of them would be a great addition for your focal image. Or you can go to the pattern paper and see if there's something you can fussy cut. That would be the very reason I purchased this paper pad, is had a couple of different patterns where there were images on a white background. And so I could essentially cut that out, leaving a border, and create my own ephemera. And so I think that is a really great way to get a lot of value out of that paper pad. And as you could tell when I showed it in the beginning, there's still a lot of it left. And so this paper pad is going to go on for many more projects. And so it's nice to be able to create my own focal images and not be limited to what was there. So I do want to give this a little bit more detail on the front. And so I just have this oval shaped doily, and I flipped the die over once I had cut the white cardstock, and I just traced the inside of it onto a piece of the offcut so that I could get the exact shape I wanted to fill that in. And then you see I cut that out. I traced that with a red pen so you could see. And then I just cut that back out so that it would fit perfectly inside. Now I want to add that snowman image. I'm going for a little bit left and a little bit higher than center. I'm not adding this with any spacers. Remember, this is a sweet and simple kind of design for our folio, so I don't want to add all of those bulky things to the front. You could, if you wanted to, very easily do that. I would recommend, though, for this single-sided paper that you would cut an additional piece of thick cardstock and add that to the back of it before you put your spacer so that you can maintain a nice, smooth, even top finish. Here is the sentiment that I cut from a different piece of that same pattern paper. And even though I do have flowers that are layered, they're not shaped, so they're not dimensional. I did put a pretty little glittery center here just for a little added detail. And I did use my offcut from this green cardstock to create the leaves. That's just going to finish off the cover. Now, we would generally be putting ribbons and charms and buttons and sequins and all those fun things on here. If you want to see a version of this with all of those added details, just let me know in the comments, because this was a lot of fun to make and it was a great use for my stash paper. And so I'll definitely consider creating another video with that, and we'll do a leveled up version of the Sweet and Simple folio. Now that we have our cover all set, I do want to include inserts into those pockets, and so I have them prepared here. Now, the important thing to remember, especially if you're working with your single-sided papers, is that you do want to add a solid base for these layers, and so I chose 110-pound cardstock. It's 5 1/4 high by 4 3/4 wide. The cardstock that is colorful is 5 1/8 by 4 5/8. And the pattern paper is 5 by 4 1/2. Now, this is a little bit narrower than the book. That will help it to slide in and out. And I have also decided that it will be taller than those pockets, so that they will be easy to grab when you want to pull them in and out. And that would be the third change from our original. I had a tabbed top, and I just honestly wasn't willing to do the math for all of those layers, because we do need to kind of fortify that single-sided paper to make it work for this. So I just decided that the rectangle inserts will be perfect. I should mention that they are also finished on the back. You would maybe want to consider leaving the back with a more neutral pattern so that you could do some journaling on that, or maybe include that in the back of one of those flip pages. So because we have 5 pockets, we have 5 inserts, and oh baby, does that add a lot of bulk. Now this little Sweet and Simple book is just absolutely substantial and heavy and thick and chunky, and so that is absolutely perfect. Okay, that is it for our project today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know in the comments and give me a big thumbs up for this video. You can find links for our socials in the description. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe and join my Crafty Little family. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.